Hey everyone, it's Christy with the Killer Miller Chicks. I just wanted to give you a garden tour. It's the first garden tour of the season when our gardens are nice and full. So this is our first garden. Right here you can see we have cantaloupe growing. So we have 3 rows full of cantaloupe. They're looking nice and big. At least I consider this big. We've had a lot of rain and sunshine that's really helped with their growth, so we haven't had to really water yet. So that's great. And you can see over here we're using a lot of cardboard just to keep the grass down and out. We ran out of the ground cover and this works just as well, and it'll put nutrients back in the ground for next year. Not sure if you can see it, but in the cardboard here we do have a few volunteer tomatoes. Those are cherry tomatoes that we get volunteers every year in this garden. The first year we planted quite a few, and ever since then we haven't had to plant any because they come up on their own every year. Now we're just growing a few watermelon this year. We didn't want too many. We mainly want the cantaloupe, so we only have watermelon right here. So we just have 3 watermelon growing here. Down on this end, we don't have anything planted yet because we are saving this room way down here for pumpkins. And it's too early to plant our pumpkins, so this is just, we've covered up the holes so that we won't have any grass growing, and we will be planting pumpkins there later this year. Now down here, we have 2 rows of celery, and then as you can see, I have a bunch of empty rows here. So we just put these holes in this paper yesterday, so I have more celery that I'm going to plant right here in these 2 rows. And then I haven't decided yet. I'm either going to plant lettuce or maybe lettuce and some more onion in these 2 rows. So our celery is really looking great. Now I don't know if you remember, but over here in this nice big box, we planted potatoes, and we planted those right after St. Patty's Day. And they are looking really good. I haven't had a chance yet to add dirt, but hopefully we are getting some potatoes in there. And then over here are the onions that I planted. This is the first time I've planted this many onions, and it's our first year of using this raised bed, but as you can tell, it's working great. These onions are loving it over here. I am gonna trim them up some so that the bulbs will continue to grow, but those onions are looking great. And then over here in these 3 raised beds, we have our strawberries. Now the past week we have been picking strawberries off of here. They're ripening already. It looks like not all of our strawberry plants came back this year, so we have more that we will add. Most of these are everbearing, which are just the smaller berries. We did buy 1 package of June bearing this year that we are going to add to the beds, but we haven't done that yet, so those will be a little late, but hopefully they will produce next year. You can see right here we have some that they're red, but they're not quite red enough to pick. They're still a little pink, so we'll pick those tomorrow. There are some weeds in this bed. We haven't had a chance to weed it yet. We've been weeding everything else. All right, up here is our other garden that we have, and it is nice and full, as you can tell. So we have all kinds of things going in this garden. First 2 rows we have here are peppers. So we have a bunch of bell peppers, then there's poblanos and jalapeno peppers. At the very end, we had a few spots left, so we just popped some onions in there. We wanted to make sure that we used up all of our space possible. The next 2 rows are tomato plants, and we have beefsteak tomatoes and Roma tomatoes. Those are the only ones that we planted up here. We get plenty of the volunteer cherry tomatoes in the other garden, so we don't bother planting those anymore. Then we have onions, lots and lots of onions. So right here, these 4 rows are all onions. I'm super excited about our onions this year. We should have a great onion. Don't mind the rooster. We should have a great onion harvest this year. As I've said before, we haven't really planted onions before. Last year we planted maybe a Sorry, you would think it was morning instead of night. But last year we planted a handful of onions. They turned out really well, so I thought this year I would try to plant enough to get us through. Guess he wants to be heard. So this year I thought I would try planting enough onions to get us through the entire year. We'll see how we do. So 4 rows of onions. In these 2 rows we have broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. First year of planting those, so I'm super excited. These 2 rows are going to be beans. Once again, first year of planting beans. these 2 rows are peas. Now, not many peas have come up. We do have a few there. You can tell we've been weeding today, so don't mind all the dead weeds. But not very many of the peas have come up. We did plant them later than everything else, so hopefully they will start to sprout soon. And then we have 4 rows of sweet corn. We planted this corn last year also, and it was super good. So we are hoping to get a good harvest out of that this year. And right here on this neat little triangle, we have some cucumbers. The last few years we have not had success at all with our cucumbers, so I'm hoping this year will be better. Every year I hope for something to work better than it did the year before. And for the final section of our garden, we have this here. So we've planted our sweet potatoes that you saw me buy right over there. And then we have a few regular potatoes that you can see sprouted. We have a lot of empty holes still. I wouldn't call it a lot. We have some. And so I'm just gonna, now that I've planted everything I wanted to, I'm just gonna find something to plug in those holes so that we're not wasting space. My guess is it'll probably be onion or lettuce, something that is really easy to grow that we could use. Not only will we eat the lettuce, but our chickens and our pigs, they all like the lettuce too, so it never hurts to grow extra vegetables whenever you're raising animals because it never goes to waste. Now over here, it looks like a grass patch, but I did plant carrots and I just don't think they came up, and I have not had carrots come up since we've started gardening on this property, so it's really weird. I don't know what's going on. We don't have a lot of rocks or anything. I don't know why they don't sprout, so very weird, but I'm gonna keep trying. I think I might just re-till that up and try carrots again. Now, you might notice all the tall grass around here. You might wonder what we're doing and why we're not mowing our yard, but we do contract with someone to square bale this every year, and so that is great for our animals. We get some of the square bales and then they sell the rest, and so it's just really great to be able to do that every year. So you will notice we have a lot of tall grass around our property because we do only mow in the places we need to, around the gardens and around the house and stuff like that. And then there are spots that, like our chickens, they take care of the grass in because they love fresh grass too. I'm not sure if you can see it, but over here we have lots of blackberry plants. Last year was the first year we got any off of them. They haven't been planted very long. We get them from the conservation department. They do have thorns. They are not thornless, so you really have to be careful over here when picking them. But our chickens, they like to use this for cover. They hide under it a lot, and then usually they wear all the grass down around it so we don't have to try to mow or weed eat around it. So that's our biggest blackberries right here. I do think having our greenhouse next year will help our plants get going a little faster. They seem to grow a lot better once I was able to put them outside, but it was just so cold for so long. It took a while before they could be outside where they got the most sun and a little wind and everything. All those bright environmental things that they need to really grow. Currently our greenhouse has taken a back seat to planting the gardens, but eventually we will get back to it and get it finished. There's just not enough hours in the day when you have 3 kids graduating high school, 1 kid graduating preschool. Just got really busy this year for us. That was 7, and there should be 10 total.
10 total, there's only 1 more.
You found one? Just a frugal tip I like to share about landscaping. I don't like to spend a lot of money on landscaping, and so my go-to is always just to go to Lowe's and hit the clearance rack. Whenever they haven't watered their plants really well, they put stuff on clearance. So 4 years ago, I was at Lowe's at the perfect time, and I got all these knockout roses for $1 a piece. I couldn't believe my luck. So I paid $1 each, brought them home, watered them really well, waited about 6 months to plant them because I just didn't feel that it was the right time of year to plant. It was so hot and dry. And these roses just turned out wonderful. I love these roses. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of knockout roses, but for $1 a piece, I couldn't pass it up. It's perfect landscaping for this side of our barn. I think it looks great. And as you can tell, we get tons of blooms every year. We did last year lose one rose bush, but for $1 it lasted for 3 years, and we still have all the other 9. I've not found another deal that good. I don't know if I was just there the right day that year, but I still look all the time, and that's where I got a lot of plants this year. So over here you'll see a new bed that we just freshly planted today. This is our gnome bed, I guess you would call it. It's down by our barn, and it's just a cute little area we like to fix up. We have our little gnome garden here, and all of these plants we bought today on the clearance rack at Lowe's. So we have petunias, which are just an annual. They will get really big and then they won't come back next year, but they were super cheap on the clearance rack. I think it was like an 8-pack for $2. And then we got that, I think it's a dahlia, it said. It should come back next year. It's supposed to be a really big bush flower. We'll make sure to check it whenever it's in full bloom, but it should be really beautiful. And then just a couple little ground covers. And so we planted this whole garden. I want to say we paid maybe $30 for all of these flowers on the clearance rack. That's not as cheap as our knockout roses, but it's still a really great deal to not pay full price. And all these flowers need is a little water. They hadn't been getting watered, so they started dying off. Once they start getting watered regularly, they will bloom like no other. They'll be just as beautiful as all the ones that were looking good at the garden center. So if you just don't want to spend a lot of money on landscaping, I just suggest that you check your clearance racks because you can find some really great deals there. So as you can tell, the sun's starting to go down here. It is a gorgeous night. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the small tour of our garden and seeing how well our vegetables are coming along, and the nice little tip I shared about landscaping and how you can find yourself some decent priced flowers so you don't always have to pay full price. It was great seeing you. We'll see you next time.